Welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings. Hi, I'm Teresa.
Hi, I'm Sheila.
Hello and welcome to Spill the Tea about weddings with Sheila and Teresa. Hi, I'm Teresa, owner of the English Country Barn, a beautiful wedding venue in Magnolia, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Riley and I own Riley Jordan Events, which is a full-service event planning, coordinating, and consulting business. I specialize in corporate full-service planning and wedding coordination.
Hi Riley, welcome to Spill the Tea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You may notice that Sheila's not here.
We're missing
We're
one.
we're missing Sheila. She's unfortunately sick. So you've got to put up with me asking the questions today, and hopefully Riley has got lots of tea to spill.
I think so. I think I'm ready.
Good. So Riley, what should we talk about today?
Ooh, I think we should talk about vendor communication and coordinators and their role within the wedding and their scope.
That's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
It is.
I know.
So Riley, you know, because I'm quite vocal about it, but I definitely have a love-hate relationship with great vendors versus poor vendors, and definitely a love-hate relationship with very, very poor coordinators.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we have a curated vendor list is people that we know play nicely together and work well with our couples and do what our couples need. Because you and I both know that couples don't always know everything that they need to know until it might be too late.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important for them to understand why we curate a list of vendors that we know work well together and work well for our couples, and the pitfalls of totally disregarding that. Because one of the things that stresses me out so much is when I get a couple who have booked the venue and I send them the vendor list, and then they proceed to send me a long list of every vendor that has never been at the venue before.
Yeah.
And I think, why did you do that? Because I just know that they're spending money for vendors who are going to be asking me a million questions the day of. And part of that problem is because those vendors don't all then communicate properly with us. They don't realize that, because nobody reads, we all know nobody reads.
Nobody reads.
They don't read their contracts to understand that we do welcome them to come and do a walkthrough. And especially coordinators and planners who definitely don't read their planning contract and then don't come and do an in-person meeting. So I would say to our couples, you're going to spend this money, and then those vendors are going to spend half of the time that you've booked them for phoning me, asking me stupid questions. And that stresses me out so much.
Yeah.
So let's talk about vendor communication, because I know that that's something that probably gets on your nerves too.
Yeah.
As a coordinator and planner, you need to be able to plan for these poor couples. You need to make sure that their wedding is as it's supposed to be and can only happen if they have communication.
Right. It's so hard. Like, we know nobody reads anything. I think vendor communication is so important because as the coordinator, I have to know who's arriving when. So I make sure she's not walking in with your cake when you're in the middle of your first look, or I need to make sure your DJ is set up on time. And when I'm trying to get information from your vendors and they refuse to answer, I cannot put all of the pieces together to make sure our day goes seamless. I'm not. I would love to. I would love to say this is how it's supposed to work, but it never goes how it's supposed to work, really. And being prepared to talk to your vendors about what they need is so important. But there are some weddings that you just cannot get an answer regardless of what you try or do.
So why do you think vendors don't communicate with you and tell you the information or respond to your questions?
I'm not totally sure. Sometimes I think if you are a vendor whose role is kind of drop off and go, you don't necessarily have to worry about the whole day. You don't care what time first look is. You do.
I mean, we had a situation a few weeks ago where the caterer was not even dropping off, they were actually serving. And their timeline said that they were showing up at 3:00 because dinner was going to be served at 5:30. But the ceremony was at 3:00.
Yeah.
And nobody had caught this problem until I was reading through the timeline, and I thought, oh, that way. So I'm quickly texting the caterer, which is not my job because I'm not the planner. And that's obviously another conversation, the difference between a venue coordinator and a wedding coordinator, because that's hugely misunderstood all the time. But I was the one that ended up doing that job and reaching out to the caterer saying, hey, you can't actually show up at 3 because you're going to be making a noise, and unless you're going to be absolutely silent, and none of us can levitate our equipment into the barn as much as
Right.
we'd like to. So, you know, there are problems, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because I would say that most of the vendors on my list probably make the list because they're good communicators.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I'm not totally sure because I think that's important. I just think there's a lot of vendors who just have like maybe one role and that's all they're worried about. But my job is to make sure the whole day goes smoothly. And I have to be prepared, handling what's going on right now, but also prepared for the next step. And I can't do that if I don't know what time you're even arriving to start hair and makeup. My bride doesn't know what time you're starting. Like, I have vendors
especially
who
if you've
don't
not
even
been
respond.
to a venue before, because then
Very
you don't
much.
even know where you're doing hair and
Where you're
makeup.
going, what time they should be ready. I had one recently, and it was the Thursday before the Saturday wedding. She texted me to ask what the address was for the wedding, and I'm like still waiting on all this other information that I still haven't gotten from her. And then now they want this answer, and it's just really tough to.
And
get
they
that
hadn't read your
information.
communication, which
Nothing.
clearly said the address of
It has it on everything. They don't read any of that, but now they need the address, and you're stuck in a hard spot of being like, here you go, but I still need all this information.
Do you think that it's a generational thing or a cultural thing now that everybody thinks that the world revolves around them, and so therefore they don't consider that the moving parts, for example, if you've got a DJ dropping off, they need to be able to have space to unload. And if you've got the cake lady dropping off, they can't be both there at the same time unloading because there isn't space for everybody to be doing so. So, I mean, particularly if they're trying to set up outside as well at the same time, or, you know, I mean, obviously our venue, we have multiple days so they can do some setup the day before. But if everybody only has 12 hours, that's a huge task, isn't it, really, for you to be able to get all those moving parts?
Yeah, we're down to the minute, and I just need to know. I don't know. I don't really know what the holdup is sometimes. I also am like very sensitive to the fact that sometimes if I'm reaching out to you for a wedding in 6 weeks, that you might have a million events before then. So you're not totally worried about those details. Like, you know, when you're going to be there, you know that you're going to handle it, but you may not be able to respond to me for the week of. If you're a rental company, you need to wait to see what your route is, all of that. But I also think you can just email that and say, I won't know until then, and I can provide you. And that would save so much stress and heartache. We had a wedding together recently, and it took over 2 weeks to get responses from 2 of our vendors. And I don't know how you get that. Our bride had tried, nobody responded. I had tried, nobody responded. Multiple calls, emails, and we finally heard back a few days before.
Yeah, I know you sent me a text, Teresa, I'm trying to get you all this
I-
information, but I can't because...
Right. It makes me look bad because thankfully it was with you guys and we already have a reputation together, and so that's great. But if it was a different venue, I would never be allowed back there. And it's so frustrating when clients choose vendors to not do their job the way they're supposed to. And I'm not picking a lot of the vendors, so I'm stuck dealing with it, and it puts me and my team in an awkward spot because then we look like we don't have our stuff together, but I don't have information yet. And so we're trying to constantly get that information in early, and I don't know what the holdup is. I also a lot of them don't have full contracts. I'm like, if you would have a real contract with them, this would have said when you were arriving or how many team members your team needs meals. Well, I don't know how many are coming because you don't have that in there. I don't know how to make sure how much, our head count changes. Our caterer needed that 2 weeks ago, and now you're adding a team member. Like, there's so many moving pieces, and I think that until you have to look at the event as a whole, you're not worried about it.
I think part of the problem is that certainly in the last few years, there's been a lot of people who have thought the wedding industry is big bucks industry, which is a whole nother conversation. And so let's all get on the bandwagon. And suddenly, instead of having, I don't know, in North Carolina, let's say 50 reputable, really, really good planning companies, we suddenly have 5,000 people who have bought a black dress and picked up a clipboard and can consider themselves to be a planner. I think our couples need to understand, do research, take the vendor lists that you're given, because those vendor lists are so, so valuable. And I think that they don't, it's such an education, isn't it? Because I love meeting new vendors. You and I have had that conversation before, that it's hard for new vendors to get into a venue on their preferred vendor list, because obviously if we always say choose our vendors, it's hard. But there are ways and means of doing that. I mean, you and I met through a styled shoot, and we open our doors to styled shoots a few times a year so that we can meet new vendors and see if they play nicely. And I do love having new vendors come there, But not every one of them all on one wedding.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the thing, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, like that particular wedding you're talking about, I think you were the only vendor I knew. And I'm grateful that it was you, because had it been somebody else, the whole wedding could have just been, well, we don't know what's going on. And couples, we really do care. We really, really do want you to have the wedding that you want. And we can only do that if we know what's going on.
Right.
And we're not charging money just to be there and have a clipboard and look nice. I mean, especially, I mean, I could never do your job.
I could never do yours. No.
But that's the difference. I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the differences. Somebody asked me the other day, and I saw that you did a social media post, which I loved, which talked about all the things that you do that they don't notice, like fix a bra strap, bustle a dress, notice when somebody is feeling lost and lonely and doesn't know where to go. All of those things are not getting somebody down the aisle, and they're not making sure the landscaping is looking perfect, but they're so necessary to making the whole wedding feel absolutely perfect. So let's talk about some of the roles that you do.
Yeah, I find that something I struggle with a lot as far as getting the value. We're not a tangible service. You don't walk in and get a cake when you work with us, right? And so
Can't you bake?
I know, I wish I could. Not like you. And so as much as I wish I could. But you're trusting me that I'm going to see all of those little details, and you're trusting me. Anybody can tell you what time your ceremony starts and hope you get down the aisle. But who's the one making sure that your mom's okay? Do we have extra tissues for her because she's been a mess all day? Are we the ones, you know, like, and that's supposed to be it. It's a wedding day. It's emotional. But when you're hiring a coordinator, hiring somebody who has experience, but somebody who didn't just plan their wedding and now wants to do it. I think it's important that you find a passion of yours, and if you can create that into a business, I'm all for it. I love what I do. But I also think that there's education and experience behind it that makes the world of a difference. There are so many people that get into it just because they enjoy it and they think love is great, which is so true. And I'm all for love and I'm all for weddings. I cry every wedding, okay? But at the same time, like, you have to know how to look for those things and how to diffuse those situations, and realistically, how much time should a speech take or not, and be ready for that. But a lot of what we do is behind the scenes and things people will never see or notice, really.
Well, I mean, we had a situation not long ago where one of the toilets backed up because somebody had put something unpleasant down there. And we don't want our couple to know about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the communication then from the coordinator who is saying, hey, by the way, we've got a little problem here. And then the venue dealing with it. But that's the kind of troubleshooting that people should never know that a coordinator's done. But more importantly, I mean, can you imagine if, say, the cake lady broke down on the highway 2 hours from where the venue is, and the only person who knows is the cake lady, because is the coordinator, because you don't want the couple to be panicking, thinking, well, my cake's not going to be here in time. And then the coordinator can actually say, don't worry, I can send somebody to get that. Or it's okay, get the AA out to repair it, and we can get you in a timely manner. Those things matter
so much.
You know, or if there's no ice, or if there's no water. Who's going to notice them? I mean, we had a situation where the delightful couple had organised with the caterer to do iced tea, lemonade and water for dinner service. They had a bartender serving beer and wine for cocktail hour, but there was this lap where there was no water, iced tea and lemonade during cocktail hour. So all the guests could only drink beer and wine. And not everybody wants to do that. And nobody had thought about it. That would be a coordinator saying, hey, by the way, we need to send somebody down to go and get some iced tea and some water from the supermarket, because it can be solved. Rather than having guests walking out because they don't actually want to drink. I mean, I wouldn't want to drink beer or wine. I mean, I'd be horrified. So, I mean, what am I going to do? Stand there for an hour getting thirsty? So that's a coordinator job, isn't it? That you would notice that.
You're always watching and seeing where you can do. When I bring on team members, the very first assistant that I hired, I was like, if the wedding goes good, they don't know why they hired us, because it went seamless.
That's a great thing to say.
And if anything goes wrong, it's our fault, whether it's our fault or not. So, like, be ready. And you just have to have thick enough skin to be ready for that. And I hate it when we leave a wedding, they're like, it was perfect. And I'm like, okay, our team was like, we're covered in bruises and everything. Like, this was a stressful day. But that's the ultimate goal. I never want my clients to know. They ask how it was. It's beautiful. Are you having fun? Great. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's get you a water.
I'm going to use that little line.
Yes.
You know, why do we need a coordinator? Because you won't know that you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Exactly.
It is a tough spot to be in, but ultimately that's what I want. I would much rather them know that they just felt taken care of by me without ever knowing what I did, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's
I
the
would say
ultimate
as a venue, everything that I do is behind the scenes, other than the communication that I have with the couple. Here's your welcome pack, and Ian obviously dealing with the contracts and our reminder checklist. All the rest of it is done without them even knowing. You know, things like, yeah, I need a table plan because I'm going to set those tables up for you. They don't magically get set up.
Right.
Last week's wedding was 145. Next week's wedding might be 180. Somebody's got to move those tables, and they don't happen by magic. Somebody has to get out the decor that they've borrowed from us. And again, it's not the cats doing it, it's me.
Yeah.
Mowing the lawn. We have a couple of shoots coming up, and I said to Ian, by the way, everything has to be absolutely immaculate. All the ditches have to be taken care of. Everything needs to be mowed. All of the benches, because you know it's pollen season.
Yeah. It makes a lot more work for you.
All of the yellow pollen has to be washed off.
Yeah.
And actually, Ian washed it all off yesterday about noon, and by 3:00 when I did a tour, everything was yellow again. So, but the couple don't need to know about that. It's all stuff behind the scenes. And when people say, "Oh, what are we paying for?" Well, you're paying for that.
You're paying for a seamless experience. It's an experience.
Exactly. And for them not to know any problems is what they're paying for, essentially, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So vendor communication is so important. Yeah.
I need to know so I can make sure my bride is ready. Or I also need to know if you're supposed to be here at 3 and it's 3:20, 3:30, I need to know to check in with you.
So what do you do? And if you literally haven't heard from anybody, what do you other than a stiff brandy?
Right. That was tough. This last one was tough because then it takes up so much more time, and then it's unfair to all of my clients or all of my couples when I'm supposed to already have stuff done. If we have to, we'll just, when we do a quick check-in with the bride, hey, I haven't heard back from this vendor. Have you heard anything? Or maybe follow up next time you guys chat. I'll add the couple to the emails. Calls. We haven't run into that except that one extreme where I've had really, really tough time getting answers. For the most part, we hear at some point. It's just tough. Sometimes I'm like, just let me know if you at least got this email. I don't even need your responses. Let me know that you got this email, and we'll work on it. My team is so good at adapting because like I love a plan. I'd have it down to the second, but it never goes that way, and we have to adapt. So I'm fine if you give me your information last minute. Like we'll always make it work, but I still would love to have at least some of your information so I know what we're doing and how we can make your experience happy so your brides love you too. Like it's a team effort. Truly, a wedding day is such a team effort.
Yeah, and I mean, and I love it on a Sunday when our couples will give me a list of everybody who was amazing. And occasionally, you know, because we do like to add new vendors. So if they brought a new vendor in and they say, oh my God, Teresa, that DJ was absolutely brilliant. They had the dance floor packed all night. Then I'm going to communicate with the coordinator and say, what was your experience like with them? And I don't think vendors always realize that, you know, if we're established, we actually talk to each other, and it can make or break their relationships with people, because you might have a situation now where you think, I actually never want to work with that hair and makeup artist ever again as long as I live. Well, you might then say to me, by the way, that hair and makeup artist, Teresa, was hideous to communicate with. I don't recommend them. And even if they did an amazing job at the hair and makeup, that relationship is probably tainted because we
at least enough for you to ask questions when you move forward.
Exactly.
I think for couples too, like don't be afraid to ask those questions. What is your preferred method of communication? What's a typical response time? Also,
That's
how
a really
do you
good one,
how do
isn't
you
it?
play along with your vendors? How do you respond? I always joke that like we're the bad guy and that's just part of our job. So I'm always like, blame it on me. Say my coordinator needs to know when she sends an email, typically what's the response time? Like you can throw me out there the whole time and that's fine. But if that makes you feel better about asking those questions, do that. Get those answers. I think that paints a good picture of what they're going to be like for wedding day. A lot of vendors too will like be really great in the beginning and book you, and then you might not hear from them. So does the response time change?
Oh my God, that stresses me so much. Some of our couples do that. They might book us like last March for this March, and I don't see them for the whole year. And I think, what are you planning?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
What do I need to know about? So we do insist that they have a 30 to 45 day in-person meeting with me, just to make sure all those logistics, and I breathe a sigh of relief when they show up. Oh, good God, it's hideous. But also, I mean, and I understand vendors sometimes, because I might get a floor plan, came in the email 4 weeks ago for this weekend, and I'm not going to look at that in great detail, but when I get it, I'm going to skim through and say, great, thanks.
Yeah.
And then I just put it on my notes, floor plan received on this date, and so it's there for that particular wedding. I don't need to know all the nuances of that wedding until I've dealt with all the other weddings in those weeks preceding. But at the same time, I still need to know I've got it somewhere. Because if I get to the week of and I'm waiting, that's so stressful.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally got a floor plan yesterday for a wedding this weekend. I've already laid the tables out on Sunday when we finished last weekend's wedding, because I don't think people understand that too. It's not just about, okay, we're having a wedding today and it happens by magic. I've already put away the chairs that I don't need from last week, got out the tables that I do need for this week, got out the decor, switched it all around. All of those things happen, they have to happen at my convenience too. So if I haven't had a floor plan yet, what colour linens do you want? Kind of, you know. So it is great for couples to understand maybe what questions they need to ask all of their vendors. So Sheila and I have this conversation regularly about what order they should get. And I know you do coordination rather than full service planning. So you obviously come in the deep end sometimes, that they've already made all these plans. And I have to say, I'm going to put this on record, people, I was wrong. That doesn't happen very often. And if Sheila was here, I would apologise profusely to Sheila. I was wrong. Well, partially wrong.
Okay, fair.
Only partially wrong. Sheila and I had a conversation a few weeks ago about in what order people should do their booking. I've always said venue first, because without the venue, you don't have a date, you don't have anything else. And Sheila argued that a planner or budgeting was more important. And I understand that it is important to have a planner in place. However, budgeting is the most important. And I will concede that even if you don't hire a coordinator or a planner until later on down the path and you want to get your venue, you need to have had a meeting about budgeting, whether that's a family meeting with everybody who's having a part to play in this, or whether it's a meeting with just your partner to decide, and Google it. I mean, it's so easy. We can all Google now and see. You can actually Google and Wedding Wire and the Knot, and I will tell you this, you can go on there and say, how much is the average wedding in North Carolina for an October wedding? And it will give you a spreadsheet and tell you how much you would expect to spend. And everybody has a budget. So if your budget's $10,000, then you need to be putting that budget and saying, well, this is how much I can afford to spend. Uncle John can be my photographer, so I don't have to spend $3,000 for a photographer. So now I've got this much more money that I can spend on a coordinator or food or some. I mean, I saw only this morning somebody looking for catering for 150 guests, and their maximum spend was $13 a head.
That's crazy. I can't even,
And there were so many people going on there saying, you need to either cut your guest list down to half so you can spend $26 a head, or you need to go to the pizzeria and buy pizza. It's not realistic.
No.
And I don't think couples are doing themselves any favors when they don't do that research first to decide how much they can afford to. We can all say, oh, well, I think I've got $10,000 to spend on a wedding. Well, that's fine, but now you probably need to have 30 guests. Don't you think?
I think so too.
So if you've got this much budget, the best way to cut your spend is guest count. And then if you want to have a venue and you want the Pinterest worthy and the elaborate, Google how much you're likely to spend and take an extra year to save for it. But so I was wrong. Don't come to your venue shopping until you know how much money you've got to spend. And I'm going to bang on about that forever. I'm not wrong very often. I mean, Ian wants this to go down in the history books that I've confessed to being wrong. But I genuinely think that couples need to really figure out where they want to. Like, I know you and I talked about when you first meet with them, which parts of the wedding are the most important. And some people will say the food, or you're not going to get that for $13 a head, or photography. Well, if that's really important to you, don't have Uncle Jim do it, because unless he's a professional photographer, you're not going to get those photos. So I just think, I mean, at our venue, we insist they have to have a coordinator at the very least. So that's got to be in your budget. And I'm not doing it.
Right. I think so too. I also think even if you were in those Facebook groups, you can even just read through the comments about how much it typically costs. I think there's a lot of resources out there to guess, or to talk to somebody maybe you've been to a wedding before, roughly those costs. I think there's a lot of ways that you can start to get your idea of it before you even start any of the process.
Well, I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT. We are best friends these days. I ask a lot of questions, and you can literally not even have to type. You can speak on your phone and say, hey, how much does the average wedding cost in Eastern North Carolina? And it will tell you.
Yeah.
So even with today's generations have so short attention spans, allegedly, you can find that out in less than a minute, how much you need to spend if you have a guest count of 30 people or 100 people or 200 people or 500 people.
Yeah.
You can find it out. So I was wrong.
Figure out your budget.
Yes. Anyway, enough of me being wrong. Let's talk about something else.
Oh, well, I appreciate you admitting that for me. I feel like I have your secret now for now.
Oh, it's not a secret because it's going to be out on the podcast. But Sheila's missed out on that big moment. So anyway, Riley, tell me, what's your favourite part of the wedding?
Ooh. Okay, I have two parts. One's the rehearsal. I love when...
Do you?
I do. I hate the beginning of the rehearsal because it's kind of stressful at first. But I love if whoever they're walking down the aisle with, our bride is walking down the aisle with, I love that moment because I feel like when they're finally down the aisle, that's when they like start to really sink in that this is getting real and the dynamic changes and the mood shifts in there. And I love seeing them just in that moment, so present. And then on wedding day, ooh, I love when I can just look over at my couple at any time, especially during reception, and they're just enjoying themselves. Anytime I can look at them and they're sneaking a kiss or they're taking a picture over here or they just genuinely look happy and in the moment, then I feel like it was well worth it and everybody did their job well.
Interesting. And so when do you cry?
All the time. It just depends. Some of the speeches get me. The rehearsal gets me. Sometimes a lot of our brides actually come up to us to like need a minute. They'll come find me, but can we have 5 minutes together, or can I step outside with you? And in those moments, I feel so honored that out of their whole people, the whole group of people, they asked if I could go outside with them. And that will make me cry when they go back inside. I'm like, oh, that was so nice, because I think that's so important that you have somebody that you feel safe with on your wedding day.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of wedding day?
The day after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sunday mornings when we have, because on wedding day, I mean, I don't do crowds. I mean, I'm just not that person. I find it horrific having to make small talk with people I don't know. I might appear confident, but in big crowds, hate it.
Yeah.
So I love early morning on wedding morning when I pop up and see the bride and just say, hi, everything okay, need anything? And they're all excited, and the anticipation, love the anticipation. And then Sunday morning when they give me a hug and say best day ever. And the rest of the wedding day, couldn't care. And I'm kind of romantic, but privately. So I'm a big proponent of all of the intimate moments, like the first look, the first touch, private vows.
I love private vows.
I love all those moments. I tell all of our couples to go and have dessert together upstairs, just to take a minute and take a breath together. I love when they go off to do sunset photos with just the photographer, last dances. And I don't witness any of them because I'm not there on wedding day. Not because we're not present, we're on the property all the time. Ian will come up on wedding day. I just don't do crowds. And we all need to know our strengths and weaknesses, and that's definitely mine. I'm really organized. I love mowing and getting everything ready. I love bringing Annie out to see them. That's always a special moment when they see her. She's so beautiful.
So sweet.
And I think you did not see her half an hour ago when she rolled in the mud.
Right.
But for me, Sunday morning, when it's all over and they're riding that high and they've just done it.
Yeah.
And it's all that year of anxiety and stress and everything comes out. But interestingly, in the UK, we don't have a rehearsal.
Really?
No. So I'm not really. So when my oldest daughter got married last year, we flew in the day before her wedding, and so Ian literally showed up the morning of to walk her down the aisle. That was it. You know, there was no practice, no nothing.
Yeah.
Then get it right because you've got one
one
take.
shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting, the cultural differences, how we do that. And actually, it was quite interesting because up until recently in the UK, bridesmaids have followed the bride down the aisle to then arrange her dress. And I know that that's something that you all seem to do nowadays, whereas it's always been the maid of honor sort of arranged her dress, taken a bouquet and gone and sat down. And actually when my daughter got married, all the bridesmaids walked in before, the same as here. So it was quite interesting to see the difference.
Very different.
But, yeah. So do you consider yourself a romantic?
Yeah.
Were you always a romantic before getting in the wedding industry?
No. Well, a little bit, but more private like you were, for sure. And I just love love. I like when people are happy and enjoying the parts of life. And so I think naturally I like watching those things. So when they're just happy on wedding day and finding those moments. Yeah.
Yeah. I love them. I don't see them. I just love that they're happening out there and people are taking those times. I know when Ian and I got married all those years ago, I genuinely had the best day ever because we had a very small wedding, but we had time together to actually chat and you know. And for me, seeing couples doing that is so important.
It's so nice. Like that's the whole point of the day. Exactly. How you enjoy it.
Yeah, I always say that to our couples. It's about you two.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about anybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm team bride, and I don't care about anybody else's feelings at all on wedding day. I will protect the bride to the end. So. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's important. That's why we only have our bride sign our contracts.
Do you?
Because I have one person to answer to, and she signed.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what you need. You don't need other people giving you a headache about all the things. Everything. One of the big things we find is that people will say, it's hot in here, it's cold in here, and think, what does the bride say?
Yeah.
Because the temperature is set for her, and that's it.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, Riley, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
Please come again.
Thank you.
Hopefully next time Sheila will be here, and you two planners can chat together about all things planning, and we can spill some more tea.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, don't forget to like, follow, and share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.